So Vicky is essentially an interactive film made to be experienced at multiple touch points. It's a story that happens over the course of a small duration of time in a very specific place, which is the southern border of the United States, during a massive weather event. The opportunity or the point of Vicky is to showcase how these large-scale events are being mediated by technology in the future and what the human stories are that emerge from these never-ending cascades of events. And seeing it through the eyes of multiple characters sort of removes it from the traditional binary or linear storytelling.
Oh, it's a storm, all right. I'll give you that. But not the kind of storm you think.
The title, Vicky, refers to a hurricane called Vicky. Vicky in particular is meant to hit in 2028, and it's a real future storm. We're also interested in this moment where, before the storm hits, how are these characters all preparing or interacting or observing this event so that they're all reflecting on it from a different level of, whether they're right up near the biggest, most threatening part of the weather event or whether they're sort of affected on the outskirts. There's a character who's in denial that it's happening and thinks that this is an effort of the government to take control in some way. There's a reporter who's actually a live streamer who's in her A state speaking about whether or not this whole thing might sort of be a hoax, and then her B state is listening to voice messages from her mother talking about, do we actually need to evacuate? Each character is reflecting and dealing with the storm in some different way.
What we were really trying to do with the piece is kind of elucidate a kind of dichotomy of feelings. So one where you have this very intimate experience with a character where you can walk up to the screen, you can hear them very clearly, they're looking right at you, and you can have this very visceral, intimate feeling. And then when you just step slightly away from them, you start to hear everyone else's voices, and it becomes this large cacophony of people, and you start to understand that you're standing in this world. It's almost like a purgatory. From an audio and visual side, we really wanted to push the tools that we were using, collaborated with our close friend Theo Karon on the audio across the board. So there's individual audio for each screen that's much more dialogue focused. There's a 5-channel sound piece playing in the space as well that's really focused on kind of trying to be almost an audio representation of this storm that's taking place. So it's meant to kind of sit underneath all the dialogue, create this brooding feeling. We were working in Unreal Engine, which was kind of unique at the time, but it was still, trying to learn how to work with motion capture or sculpting in ZBrush and these kinds of things. And then slowly, as we started to get more accustomed and experienced with the tools, we started to branch out, and that's where a lot of cases research has come into play. So one of the projects that has really defined our work recently is a music video we did for Yves Tumor for his song Jackie that came out last year. And that video was super important to us because Sean allowed us to kind of do whatever we wanted. And so we took it as an opportunity to combine every tool that we had at our disposal at that time. That video, has a live action shoot, it has 3D animation, it has 2D overpainting, it has a deep fake, it has style GAN. We learned a lot from it, and I think the way it informs Vicky is that it really helped to establish, I think, an overall aesthetic for actual objects and kind of where we wanted to take studio. Another project that was really instrumental for us was our campaign for Marine Serre in 2020 was an interesting project because it was a hybrid 3D animation. The first half of the film is all done in Unreal with digital characters, digital garments, the whole thing. And then the second half is fully live action. And what that project really, I think, was actually kind of an investigation into the, where the name comes from, right? How do we combine the physical and digital in a way that feels cohesive, in a way that creates a new aesthetic experience, something that a lot of our work, where our references are generally almost never a video game. They're never a piece of digital art. Our references really come from more traditional and classical forms of media.
The history of art and film is so long and rich, it feels obvious to us that borrowing from those conversations and trying to engage with that lineage in dealing with new media, that's where we're the most excited and where we see a lot of opportunity.